Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where it's Wednesday. That means it's Epic Comic Book Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I'll talk about a certain comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. Steve Donoghue, over on his channel, will talk about that same comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. And today, we've got a good one. Today, we're talking about Batman. The Golden Age Batman. The Batman who first showed up on the scene in 1939. It was 1939, wasn't it? Yes, it was May of 1939 when he showed up in Detective Comics number 27 with this astonishing cover. Look at that. That's awesome, I have to say. That is a really cool first cover for Batman. So Batman, the Golden Age Batman. Let's talk about this character. The Golden Age Batman, many Batman fans who love Batman have never read The Golden Age Batman. And I haven't read The Golden Age Batman for a long time. I bought this volume. This is the Archive Edition, Batman Archive Editions Volume 1, published in 1990. This was the first attempt of DC Comics to publish a run of Golden Age stories, or publish different runs of Golden Age stories for different DC Comics characters. So they came out with these archive editions, very nice, very beautiful hardcover editions. They had a bunch of different characters that they did in the archive editions. They did Superman, of course, The Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. There were a bunch of these archive editions. And they were beautiful. They're beautiful books. They reprint all of these old Golden Age stories just wonderfully. Like I said, this set of books existed long before they were omnibus editions, which is the type of edition that's so popular now for these older comics. This was their first attempt at that. And it was a beautiful series of books. And so I got a bunch of these Batman volumes and a bunch of the Superman volumes as they were coming out. I remember that they were pretty expensive for the time. This was $40. $40 in 1990. So it seemed like a lot of money back then. Worth it though. Because a lot of these stories, if you were a comic fan back then, we'd never had the opportunity to read a bunch of this stuff. I mean, I was, 19 years old in 1990? So I had never read any of this old Golden Age stuff. This was my first opportunity. That was my first opportunity to read it. But I haven't read any of this stuff since then. I've always been more of a Superman fan than a Batman fan. And so I haven't read nearly as much Batman as I should have, to be a cultured gentleman in this society. You have to read a certain amount of Batman, I think. And I haven't. I've neglected that important character in my reading. But I have all of these archive editions. I still have them all. I did not upgrade to the omnibus editions when the Golden Age Batman was published in the omnibus editions. I should have, because those omnibus editions are very nice. But that's okay. This set of books is great. And it's really interesting reading these old Batman stories. As Batman first appeared, this is Batman's first story right here. We've got Commissioner Gordon there. That is the first image of Batman in a comic strip itself, other than the cover. So famously, it was created by Bob Kane. Bob Kane's name is right there. But it was also created by Bill Finger. Bob Kane was kind of a villain and did his best to deny credit to Bill Finger for years and years and years and years. I think finally Finger is credited by DC Comics as being the co-creator of Batman. Because even though Bob Kane apparently came up with the idea of the character, his vision of the character was very different than what the character ended up looking and being like. The costume itself was mostly designed by Bill Finger, and he wrote the stories, even when he stole them from the pulps, which is an interesting thing about the early Batman. Batman came about, of course, because more super characters were demanded by DC Comics after the stupendous success of Superman. And so Batman was invented. And Batman, as he first appeared, was very much molded on the pulp adventure character, that kind of character that you'd find in the pulps. He was molded on Batman, he was based on the Shadow and Doc Savage. Basically, Batman is a combination of the Shadow and Doc Savage. He has the Shadow's darkness, he's a figure of darkness. But his training was pretty much borrowed from Doc Savage in that he is a normal person who, after his parents were killed when he was a small child, made sure that he was a physical and mental marvel. He went through all of this training to make himself a superhero, a human superhero, which is one of the keys to his success, I think. He does not have superpowers. He could be us, if we just spent all our lives training to be Batman, as he did. He was able to do this because, of course, he's super rich. So he has the luxury of having all that time to train and, fight criminals. Being rich is good if you want to be Batman. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't work out so well. So he was straight out of the pulps, including this first story. This first story that was written by Bill Finger. There is Batman there in his early appearance. This first story was ripped off from a Shadow novel. I mean, it was just straight up stolen, the whole plot and everything. And I think they felt free to do that because both pulp magazines and comic magazines were disposable. Who's going to worry about you ripping off your story when, this comic book is just going to be thrown in the trash in a month, or as soon as you're done reading it. It was a disposable medium, as were pulp magazines. A lot of people saved pulp magazines, but a lot of people just tossed them, unfortunately, in both cases. And comic books ripped off pulp stories and pulp characters like all the time. All the time. And so Batman grew out of that. That's where Batman came from. But as a comic book character, he was great. Now, one thing you notice when you look at these old Golden Age comics is just how crude the artwork looks when you're used to, comics that have been written in the last, 50 years or so. The artwork is very crude in these old Golden Age comics, but it's got style. And I used to be bothered by the crudeness of Golden Age artwork. Batman actually is a bit cruder even than the early Superman was. But it's got such mood and, like I said, style. And I don't mind it at all anymore. I kind of love it, actually. And I'm surprised just how much I've been enjoying these old Batman stories. Batman, when he first appeared, that was his bat plane right there. It was basically a helicopter plane. What do they call it? An auto gyro or something like that? I forget what that type of plane was called. He called it the bat gyro, and eventually it became the bat plane. And it was kind of cool. That's how he got around. He had an automobile. Originally, it was just a car, because sensibly, you know, if you're Batman, it makes more sense to have a car that no one's going to notice that much. You park the Batmobile anywhere, you'd think everybody knows Batman's around, you know. Look, there's the Batmobile. He's around here somewhere. But Golden Age Batman was like, no, you know, I'm gonna just drive a regular car so nobody notices me until like they need to. So things were a little bit different. And another interesting thing is that early Batman was killing folks like all the time. He didn't have that whole don't kill people thing going on. And in fact, as you can see here, early Batman sometimes even carried a gun, which was not unusual because, like I said, he was modeled after a pulp character. The Shadow was shooting people all the time with his automatics, so it wasn't strange for Batman to carry a gun. He didn't carry it all the time. He only used it once in a while. So it wasn't a regular part of his outfit, you know. But he did have it. His costume changed a little bit in his early adventures. He had surprisingly few adventures on his own before a very big change happened to the Batman comic. And that big change, of course, was the introduction of Robin, the Boy Wonder. Robin, based on Robin Hood, so he's basically a young Robin Hood. Robin is an interesting idea, this teen sidekick, this kid. I mean, he's not even a teen, pretty much. He's just a little kid who joins Batman in his incredibly dangerous adventures. Now, Robin has always seemed like a pretty bad idea to me, you know, this little kid who's, you know, endangered all the time by running around with Batman. And he is in danger, you know, he's like here, he's hanging off a girder, about to get killed. Robin also likes to throw people off buildings and stuff in these early adventures. I mean, Batman and Robin, they were always killing folks. But Robin was an interesting idea, and originally, when I was younger, I always thought that the whole concept of Robin was so stupid that Batman just should have been a solo character. He should never, this was my idea when I was younger, that there's no way there should ever have been a Robin. But reading this, one thing that is instantly clear is that this comic got a lot better as soon as Robin showed up. Like, the quality of the stories got better. The pacing and how the stories played out was better. It was a more interesting comic with Robin around. And Robin wasn't just some helpless kid. Robin was pretty damn tough, which must have been interesting reading this as a little kid, seeing this other little kid just beat the crap out of people, which is what Robin did. Robin was highly trained. Was a highly trained fighter by Batman. And the comic just becomes more fun and more entertaining and better. It just becomes better as soon as Robin shows up, which surprised me this time in reading this. It's just how cool it is, this comic is, and just what a perfect partnership this is, Batman and Robin. And they were just right from the start. From the first Robin adventure, or the first adventure with Robin, I mean, it was just dynamite, these two together. And tremendous fun. Of course, here we have an early appearance by the Joker, the fiendish Joker, based on The Man Who Laughs from the film version, The Man Who Laughs. I believe that's where Finger got the idea for this visual, for the visual of Joker. Joker was just as bad when he first showed up as he is now. I mean, he was killing folks with his, you know, drug that makes them smile when they die. He was just so creepy, and it's no wonder the Joker became so popular. So, yeah, these early adventures, man, they're really, really cool. Fast-paced stories, super entertaining stories, kind of ridiculous here and there, of course, if you're used to modern comics. But they do have something that a lot of modern comics just don't seem to have. You know, this this absolutely free-spirited barreling action through the stories. These stories don't have any self-doubt or hesitation about what they're putting on the page. It's just pure adventure fun, you know. This stuff here, the Golden Age Batman and Robin, once Robin shows up, I mean, this is just Batman and Robin, I think, at their purest form. And if you are a Batman fan, you definitely want to check out these stories because they're just incredible and so fun. The artwork remains crude throughout the Golden Age, I believe, but like I said, it's got such style to it. And yeah, you should check it out. They are reprinting the first Batman Golden Age omnibus soon. I don't remember when. I think the first one is out of print. The first printing is out of print, but they're reprinting that. I would recommend that you get that. These archive editions are a little tougher to find, but definitely, yeah, the omnibus would be a good purchase. And I mean, if you're a comics fan at all, I mean, this stuff is pretty much essential, I think. I'm surprised I let this stuff lie for so long. But now, you know, I'm doing the challenge, the world's finest challenge, where I'm reading Superman and Batman every day of my life. That's the challenge. So, yeah, I've been reading a lot of Batman lately, and I will continue to read Batman. I've got a lot of Golden Age Batman left, because this is the only one I've read so far. This first volume of the archive editions. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Check out what Steve Donoghue has to say about the Golden Age Batman. I will catch you next time.